This is PC747, and thank you for joining me for today's quick tip. The Pixel 2 and Pixel 2 XL is now official. Some are getting them in stores at Verizon, and others like myself are currently waiting for our shipment to make it out there. Hopefully I get mine next week. But while we wait, we're starting to see that there's a lot of news coming out about the display, especially the one of the 2XL. So I want to talk about it, particularly with this issue of the sRGB. Because if you've been paying attention to what's going on lately, people have been talking about how the display on a Pixel 2 XL looks a little bit dull. And it's starting to cause some concerns and having people ask, is it even worth the money? So let's start by first, let's go ahead and talk about this option known as the sRGB, what it means, why is it possibly on, and let's go from there. So first, let's start with sRGB, what it stands for. So it stands for Standard Red, Green, Blue. And basically, it was created back in 1996 by HP and Microsoft to create a standard base color of what the color spectrum is supposed to represent that will be used on monitors throughout. So basically, it is the current gamut of colors, using the colors red, green, and blue, that is able to produce. And it's basically your basic standard colors that is known and been used back on standard definition screens. Now, why is this a big controversy? Well, a lot of it has to do with right now, when you look at a lot of Samsung displays and Samsung phones, Samsung adds this saturated color to it. And it's actually overly saturated to the point people have gotten so used to that color that now when you see it, it seems like anything other than that, the display is garbage. And we have to back up and kind of ask this question for a minute. Is it the simple fact that we want true accuracy in color, or is it that with the way Samsung doing it and overly saturating and giving that pop is the correct way of drawing things? Now, I read an article written by an individual actually a year ago before this all happened, and this was from XDA, and he made a good point. Daniel Marchina, and hopefully I did not mispronounce his name too bad, but basically he did a really good article on this. And they brought up the 1+3 at the time because this issue that we're talking about now was not something new. It was brought up a year ago. Now, he went in detail about what the sRGB standard is and why people are using it now, and so on and so on. And one of the things I want to highlight from that, he made a good point on that, is the simple fact that the reason why Android needs to use it and have to use it, because Android in itself, at least at the time of this article, and considering that Google made a choice to make the Pixel 2 XL, where you cannot uncheck that block for the display quality at the OLED display supposedly be able to go at, it may make sense. But Android have not been able to process the colors correctly. So in other words, whenever Android gets a certain color gamut, it produces a color, but it may not be as accurate because Google in itself or in the Android system has never been able to process that. So with Google and Android having that option to check that, it is allowing you to get as accurate colors as possible using these standard colors of red, green, and blue. Now, this brings up a really good argument discussion right here. And the simple fact that we as users have come to expect a certain display, a certain mindset from our high-end displays out there now. And maybe it seems like that over the years that there have probably been a problem in software and Android that Google have not been able to fix. So Samsung and other manufacturers were finding ways around that. And it looks like they were looking at trying to change the colors, saturate the colors to make certain displays pop, to give that green, to give that blue, to give that color that we seem to like and love from our displays. Now, And it's to the point now that when we don't see it, we are rebelling against it. And the question I have to ask, is Google correct in saying that we are going to finally try to correct the situation by forcing the manufacturers, the web producers, and everybody else to actually step up their standard in creating what they need to create to produce the correct colors? Or should they allow the option, allow everything to continue on the way it's been going, and allow the pretty much the overly saturated of colors, which is pretty much the inaccurate colors that we're seeing now? So that is something to come to think of it. And also, with this whole display quote issue, will this keep you from buying a Pixel 2 XL? And does this drop it from the rankings as far as smartphones? I look forward to hearing your thoughts on that. It's been a month now since Apple unveiled their three phones, the iPhone 8, iPhone 8 Plus, and iPhone X. Now, as we're starting to see a lot of the numbers come in from the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, people are starting to criticize Apple as feeling like they fell off. Like, people are not interested in Apple anymore, even though the iPhone X have not been released. And that brings me to the topic of today's discussion. First of all, a lot of people did criticize Apple last month with the idea of why would you release three phones? You know, by releasing those three phones, you're going to pretty much cannibalize yourself in sales, because either people are going to wait for the iPhone X, or they're going to go give it the cheaper iPhone 7, especially when you take the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8, and the main difference being one had wireless charging made of glass, and pretty much that's the only difference between that and $100. Most people will go with the cheaper option. In fact, I know a couple of people right now who are in the market for an iPhone 8, and I pretty much told them the same thing. Hey, you might well save the money and you go get the iPhone 7 or iPhone 7 Plus. Why spend extra money for the iPhone 8? You're not getting that much difference in when you upgrade. But at the same time, I understand why Apple did that. Even though Apple is catching a lot of heat right now and being criticized for this, I think this is a situation where they would have been criticized one way or another. Had they released just the iPhone X up against the iPhone 7, iPhone 7 Plus, you'd have critics came out there and said, why are you releasing this $1,100 phone and not giving people options? Why are you forcing this new idea on people? Especially the simple fact, when you look at the iPhone X and look that they got rid of the fingerprint scanner, they pretty much forced people to take on the touch or Face ID, where people may not be wanting to jump on that yet. They may have been satisfied with keeping the Touch ID. So you would have a lot of critics jumped on board and say, you are pretty much forcing your way on us. And yet, here we are now. Apple decided to say, okay, we're going to release three phones. We're going to give people options. And they're still being criticized because they're starting to see, like we thought, the iPhone 8 and 8X is not going to, or 8 and 8 Plus is not going to sell as well as long as you have the iPhone 7 and iPhone 7 Plus there as an option. And look, this is one of those situations where for Apple, you just got to weather the storm. It's pretty much something you're going to deal with and accept. It's not going to change, people's minds, because some people are going to just criticize anyway. And I think Apple, they've been through this before. They know what to expect. They know people are going to criticize one way or another. I think the only thing they can do right now at this point is to focus on the iPhone X. Make sure when it do finally get released to the public, it's free of a lot of the issues that plague newer iPhones in the past, whether it be Bendgate, Antennagate, or whatever. Anytime Apple releases a new iPhone, there's something there sometimes that seems to catch the spotlight. And that's part of being the big dog. Anytime you're the big dog, people are going to find ways to criticize you. And that's rightfully so. If you're at the top, expect that. And like I said, for right now, Apple, the best thing you can do right now, get that iPhone X out there, make sure it's the best phone you could have, that it really is. The software is on par. Make sure any hardware issues that have been discovered during your period of testing and all that stuff gets corrected before it gets to the public. Because if you release that $1,100 phone and it has a lot of hardware problems, you can bet people be all over you. So as far as Apple's choice to go with the option of the iPhone 7, iPhone 8, and iPhone X, do you have a problem with them doing that? Or do you feel like, hey, they did what they could to provide the best amount of options for people out there? So I want to hear your thoughts on that. And which phone will you be buying if you're an Apple guy? Are you buying the iPhone X? You want to spend the extra money for that? Or are you going to save the money, go with the iPhone 7, 7 Plus? Or finally, are you going to get the phone in the middle? Go ahead and spend the extra money on the iPhone 8. You want that wireless charging. You want the little bit extra that's being brought with the iPhone 8, but you're not quite ready to give up Touch ID. This is PC747, and I'm kind of curious to know what you guys are thinking.